Welcome. My name is Bambos Haralambu. I'm the MP for Southgate and Wood Green, and I'm the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group of Cyprus. And we have a number of parliamentarians who are members of the APPG in the room, and I'll just name check a few of them because I know some of them may have to leave. From the Lib Dems we have Cameron Thomas, and thank you Cameron, and we also have Christine Jardine from the Lib Dems. We have from the Conservatives we have Sir Roger Gale, we have Martin Vickers, and we also have Wendy Morton. Labour MPs we have Rachel Blake, Alex Rouse-Curtis, Kate Ossamore, Rosie Writing, Rupert Huck, and Fabian Hamilton. I'm sure there'll be others who come in and out. And also we're delighted to be joined by a very long-standing friend of Cyprus who's no longer a Member of Parliament, and that is Alan Meal. So thank you so much, Alan. Thank you. So we have a number of speeches. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Christos Garoulis, who is the who's the president of the Federation of Cypriots in the United Kingdom, and Christos is going to say a few words, and then I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, and then our minister from the FCDO, and then we'll go through the list there. So without any more ado, Christos.
And another one has just walked through the door and down. Minister for European Affairs of the Republic of Cyprus, Foreign Office Minister, Ministers and Shadow Ministers, Party Spokespersons, High Commissioner of the Republic of Cyprus, my Lords, Honourable and Right Honourable Members of Parliament, dear friends and colleagues. On behalf of the National Federation of Cypriots, I'd like to welcome you all to our annual parliamentary reception for Cyprus. Alongside the APPG for Cyprus, we've made sure that year after year, our UK Cypriot community has the opportunity to engage with its elected representatives here at this annual event. In recent years especially, the bilateral relations between the UK and Cyprus have gone from strength to strength, so there is much to celebrate. Cyprus remains the steadfast, reliable and predictable ally that will be holding the EU presidency from January 2026. The two nations cooperate on a multitude of policy areas, from security, trade, shipping and defence. And these collaborations are only strengthened by our historic people-to-people connections, including the 300,000 strong Cypriot diaspora here in the UK and the 1.2 million British citizens who visit Cyprus every year. Following their most recent meeting in May, Prime Minister Keir Starmer and President Nikos Christodoulidis have now met 3 times in a span of only 9 months. One of those visits was historically in Nicosia, when Keir Starmer became the first Prime Minister in over 50 years to visit Cyprus on a bilateral visit. This is to say nothing of the multitude of ministerial meetings and calls between UK and Cypriot government officials, and in fact only last Friday, President Christodoulidis received Foreign Secretary David Lammy in Cyprus. And whilst there is much to celebrate in these strengthening bilateral ties, in little over a week, Cypriots here and globally will mark 51 tragic years of Turkish occupation of the northern third of the island. And despite the ongoing occupation as a diaspora, we remain steadfastly committed to reuniting Cyprus based on the agreed UN framework, namely a bizonal, bicommunal federation with political equality as described in UN resolutions, with a single sovereignty, single international personality and single citizenship, and fully in line with the EU acquis and international law. Therefore, we fully support and welcome the renewed efforts to restart reunification talks with the reappointment of a UN personal envoy and the recent appointment of an EU envoy. And as we approach next week's informal 5+1 meeting in New York, our message to His Majesty's government is clear. The UK must continue to be unequivocal that the only basis for a solution is the agreed UN framework. And in doing so, the UK must do its utmost to urge Turkey to return to negotiations within this framework and drop its unrealistic and illegal demands for partition. As a guarantor power, and therefore a participant in the UN talks, a P5 Security Council member, the UN Security Council penholder on Cyprus, and above all, an ally of Cyprus, the UK has an obligation to ensure that these steps are taken so that constructive negotiations can resume from where they left off at Crans-Montana. I'd once again like to express our gratitude to you all for joining us tonight and extend our appreciation to all our parliamentary supporters, the chairman, past chairman, president, officers and members of the Cyprus APPG, as well as our friends in both houses of parliament. Thank you for your support for our cause. Your presence here tonight and your active help gives optimism to the ideal and hopefully soon the reality of a free united Cyprus. Thank you very much.
And now we're deeply honoured to have our guest speaker, Marilena Raouna, who is the Cyprus Minister for European Affairs. Having read Marilena's biography, I cannot think of anybody who is better qualified for this job than Marilena. So she studied law at Oxford University. She had a master's as a Chiefling Scholar at LSE, and she has a diploma in French and culture from Sorbonne in Paris. So that's quite an achievement. But in addition to her work, she's been the Foreign Affairs Attaché and Permanent Representative for Cyprus at the EU. She's been a special advisor to the Director of the Diplomatic Office, including European issues. She was the Special Counselor to President Christodoulidis when he was Foreign Minister. She was Director of the President's Diplomatic Office, appointed by President Christodoulidis, and she was appointed Deputy Minister for European Affairs in January 2024. We're very lucky to have Marilena with us. Marilena, welcome. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Honourable Minister West, Ministers, Shadow Ministers, Party Spokespersons, Chair and esteemed members of the APPG for Cyprus, High Commissioner, my Lords, Honourable and Right Honourable Members of Parliament, President and members of the Federation of Cypriots, above all, dear friends, I am distinctly honoured to join you today here in Westminster for this very important annual meeting that is dedicated to Cyprus. This is a gathering that not only brings together long-standing, steadfast friends of Cyprus, it also sheds light on the strengths and immense potential of this special relationship. And it is a tribute to the enduring bond that unites us, defined by our shared history, fortified through our strategic cooperation, and firmly built on trust. It is a relationship that lives and breathes through the hundreds of thousands of Cypriots who have studied and worked hard, as Cypriots do, and made the United Kingdom their home. They've built their lives here. And in the more than 70,000 British citizens who have made Cyprus their own home. Heartfelt thanks to the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK, to the all-party parliamentary group for Cyprus, for the invitation to be here today, but above all, to each and every one of you for your long-standing, committed efforts in keeping Cyprus and the Cyprus problem high on the UK parliamentary agenda. And essentially, for being the most convincing voice and a driving force for the dynamic Cyprus-UK relations. On behalf of the government, on behalf of President Christodoulidis, thank you. And allow me this personal note. I am always delighted to come back to London, to come back to the United Kingdom, a country that has given me so much, where I spent my most formative years as a student. It always feels like coming back home. This is in fact my second visit in my capacity as Minister for European Affairs, mandated with preparing the Cyprus presidency of the Council of the European Union, which begins in 6 months from now, the 1st of January 2026, and which will last 181 days. And for those 6 months, Cyprus will represent and negotiate on behalf of the 27 member states charged with shaping a stronger, safer, more strategic European Union. And that means forging mutually beneficial strategic partnerships with like-minded countries, with key allies and partners. And the United Kingdom is one such partner. Our challenges are shared, and the solutions to these challenges require us joining forces. In navigating a complex geopolitical landscape, with the Union and indeed the world facing instability on two sides of its borders when it comes to the Union, both the ongoing Russian aggression against Ukraine and the instability in the Middle East, this is a moment of responsibility. And above all, it is a moment of great opportunity. And Cyprus will seize this opportunity during its presidency with ambition, determined to bring results that address the challenges we face, that our citizens face. We will assume the presidency as the European Union's last divided member state, with part of its territory, 37%, under military occupation. And at the same time, we will assume the presidency as an outward-looking member state, a member state with a strong, resilient economy. We are also assuming the presidency as the member state of the European Union that is at the same time an integral part of the Middle East. We stand in the Middle East as a reliable, stable, predictable partner, both in our immediate region and beyond. Cyprus is an enabler of security and stability, a safe harbor and a lighthouse in the turbulent waters of the Eastern Mediterranean, always part of the solution to the region's challenges. Our proximity to this region, a region that the United Kingdom has a deep understanding of, brings acute awareness of its stakes. In the recent Israel-Iran 12-day war, missile attacks, could be seen with the naked eye from our shores. We know all too well that our security is inextricably linked to that of the regions, but also the region's security is inextricably linked to that of Europe. But geography has also placed us at the heart of strategic opportunity, and Cyprus is now fully embracing its geography as a blessing, as an indispensable asset and component of its foreign policy. Our vehicle is cooperation, tangible, mutually beneficial projects, forging economic synergies in areas such as energy, trade, technology. We understand well that with shared economic interests forms a space of peace. And this is an inclusive, dynamic process. It excludes no one. Respect for international law, for the sovereignty, territorial integrity of states, and good neighborly relations being the sole condition to this cooperation. From fulfilling our moral obligation to the region by creating the maritime humanitarian corridor that delivered over 20,000 tons to the civilians in Gaza, and UK cooperation on the humanitarian corridor in the initial stages was vital, to consistently acting as an evacuation hub during conflicts in Sudan, the Middle East, During the recent Israel-Iran escalation, Cyprus once again stepped up as a reliable partner, ready to support, facilitating the safe diversion and redirection of flights. Cyprus, I assure you, will continue to be a trusted, dependable, predictable partner. And during Cyprus's presidency of the Council of the European Union, we will put at the forefront the importance of the EU engaging more and investing more in the Eastern Mediterranean. Our presidency will offer not only political will, but also regional access and practical tools of cooperation, interconnectivity, humanitarian facilitation, and diplomatic capital stemming from our long-standing historical ties with countries of the region. The Cyprus presidency, amongst others, will coincide with the implementation of the Pact for the Mediterranean, with the India-Middle East-Europe corridor being an extension of the Pact. This was extensively discussed during the recent visit by Prime Minister Modi to Cyprus, which comes at a time of immense potential in the EU-India strategic partnership, with a free trade agreement being under negotiation with the aim of being concluded very soon. Trade partnerships with countries such as India, with countries of the Gulf, and not only, are tools for economic cooperation, but also they are tools for geopolitical alignment, and we will do our part in advancing them during our presidency. Let me very briefly refer to some of the other priorities we will be tackling as Cyprus presidency. Defense and security, an area of great interest to the United Kingdom. It has become abundantly clear following the Russian invasion against Ukraine that we must invest more as Europe in our own defense capabilities, in our own strategic autonomy, not in a spirit of isolation, quite the contrary, but in cooperation with like-minded partners who share our security and defense interests. And the UK is one such partner, and we made that clear during the recent negotiations of the SAFE instrument that is geared towards strengthening the defense industry. Other areas include migration. Cyprus is a frontline member state. I know very well that migration is a key issue here in the United Kingdom, and we understand why. During our presidency, it will coincide with the implementation of the Pact on Asylum and Migration, and we will be focusing on tackling smuggling and the external dimension of migration. On security, beyond the traditional facets of security, there are other areas that require our attention, such as maritime security at a time of disruption and on the importance of safeguarding supply routes. We will be focusing on reinforcing our capacity to swiftly and effectively address humanitarian crises. Security issues also include issues of water resilience, for example, which in Cyprus is very high on the agenda. A number of other areas that I would like to make reference because I know they're of special interest to the United Kingdom as well. Enlargement of the European Union. The continuing support to Ukraine. This is of vital importance, and for Cyprus it's even more acutely important because we know very well what it means to have your territorial integrity and sovereignty violated. So the support during our presidency to Ukraine is a sine qua non. And above all, during our presidency, Cyprus will work to bring its strategic allies even closer. And the United Kingdom is one such partner, a natural, valuable ally of the European Union and of Cyprus bilaterally. And now we have a window of opportunity, a momentum on both fronts that we have to decisively and with a sense of urgency expand. I have mentioned it before, and I will repeat it. The United Kingdom is an indispensable ally, and the recent renewed momentum of the EU-UK relationship, marked by a very successful EU-UK summit which took place in London this past May, was a vital step and signaled a new chapter in this vital cooperation. The summit's outcomes were promising, from security and defense partnership to the common understanding and the renewed agenda on key areas such as fishing, energy, youth, health security, and others. During our presidency, we are determined, and this was something I discussed the past 2 days with key interlocutors in the United Kingdom, we are determined to work with ambition and openness in full trust, because that is the kind of partnership we have with the United Kingdom, to further advance this mutually beneficial strategic partnership at all levels and to ensure that it continues to grow from strength to strength incrementally. This is precisely was the subject of my discussion in the past 2 days, and I'm very happy to note that I had the opportunity to also extend an invitation to United Kingdom ministers to attend certain ministerial meetings in Cyprus during our presidency. The renewed momentum in the EU-UK relations comes at a time when the bilateral relations between the United Kingdom and Cyprus have also entered a new chapter. And these two tracks are very much complementary. Christos mentioned it, but in a space of just a few months, Prime Minister Starmer and President Christodoulidis have met 3 times. Prime Minister Starmer's visit to Cyprus was nothing short of historic, the first visit by a British Prime Minister in 53 years. In 2022, we launched the Memorandum of Understanding on Strategic Cooperation. We held 2 strategic dialogues in Nicosia in 2023 and then in London in 2024. They have consolidated our cooperation and they have set out a roadmap on which we are determined to deliver. Only last week, this shared commitment was reaffirmed during the visit of Secretary of State David Lammy to Cyprus. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Russian aggression against Ukraine to the turmoil in the Middle East, one thing is abundantly clear. We cannot talk about frozen conflicts. In the absence of a viable, credible peace process, a vacuum is created that becomes a breeding ground for crisis. Tonight's meeting comes just days before the tragic anniversary of the Turkish invasion against Cyprus and the continuing occupation of 37% of Cyprus's territory, occupation of European territory. And it also comes only a few days ahead of the expanded meeting on Cyprus in New York, which will take place, as you know, the 16th and 17th of July. The United Kingdom's role in these efforts is significant. It is vital. The United Kingdom is a P5 member of the Security Council, a guarantor power, a pen holder. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate our appreciation for the United Kingdom's support to our efforts to resume negotiations for a viable, lasting, comprehensive settlement on the Cyprus question, firmly anchored on the UN framework. We count on the UK's continued support, particularly as we look ahead to the meeting in New York. The objective is clear. End the stalemate in the negotiations, resume them within the agreed framework from where they stopped at Crans-Montana. To us, there is only one path, and that is the path of dialogue and the path of peace. Our commitment, the commitment of President Christodoulidis to reunify Cyprus and its people, is resolute and it's unwavering. We know all too well that the status quo in Cyprus is neither viable nor static. And in this direction, since the first day of assuming office, President Christodoulidis has exerted tireless efforts to create a new process in the negotiations, to create the conditions for the resumption of negotiations, always in line with the agreed framework, with the United Nations Security Council resolutions. And this is despite the intransigent stance of Turkey. we took a number of steps. President Christodoulidis took a number of steps in this direction. Last year, he announced the 14 unilateral measures for our Turkish Cypriot compatriots. We took steps with regards to the EU-Turkey relations, always in line with established conditionality, in order to create incentives for Turkey to engage. The result we have is that for the first time in many years, we have the expanded meetings. And this is our intention, this is our goal, is that they pave the way for resumption of negotiations. We have had the appointment of a special envoy by the UN Secretary General, and we are very appreciative that in the midst of this geopolitical turmoil, he's investing political capital and time on the Cyprus question. I think because he also understands the regional implications that a solution to the Cyprus question would have, and also for the European Union. We have also had the appointment of a special envoy by the European Union on Cyprus, who is there very much to support the United Nations in its efforts, and it's a clear indication of their commitment to the reunification of Cyprus. As I mentioned, reunification of Cyprus would send a resounding message of peace and hope in a region that desperately needs it. And it can mark a paradigm shift in the Eastern Mediterranean. This requires that reunified Cyprus remains a truly independent state, fully able to continue fulfilling its role as a reliable, independent partner in the region and beyond, without foreign interference, to continue to be a key enabler of security and a stable partner, always contributing to solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilena. That was an amazing speech, and you've given us a real taste as to where Cyprus hopes to be in the future, and we're looking forward to the presidency of the European Union in January of next year. Thank you. Before I hand over to the next speaker, I just want to recognise a few members of Parliament who've come into the room. So we have with us Steve Yem, Bob Blackman, Dan Tomlinson, Mike Wood, Lord Truscott, Gagan Mahindra, Andrew Rosendale, Dave Dugan, David Pinto-Duchinsky, and Caroline Noakes. So thank you all so much. And Stephen Geffins as well. Stephen will be speaking later on as well, so you get to speak to Stephen as well. So without any more ado, I'm going to introduce you to one of my best friends in Parliament and my neighbour politically, and well, my neighbour in constituents-wise. So I'm going to introduce you to Catherine West, who is no stranger to Cypriots. Catherine, welcome.
Well, Efkaristo Poli, and good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. And Minister, what a powerful speech. Efkaristo Poli, thank you. Fantastic. It's so good that over 2 days you've been able to get right to the bottom of all the issues. And because you've done such a comprehensive speech, I'm recommended 3 minutes so that we can hear everybody else. But it was wonderful to hear your priorities as you go forward to chair that important role within Europe. And of course, tonight is a real celebration of the friendship between Cyprus and the UK against the backdrop of an increasingly volatile world. The friendship's never been more important. That was clear when the Prime Minister made his historic trip to Cyprus at the end of last year, the first in over 50 years. The Foreign Secretary followed just last week, and Minister Doity was there earlier this year. As for all of the backbenchers who know this so well, and our Deputy Speaker, of course, who led the delegation that I was on a few years ago, and she was even better at me at having a few grappa at the end of the meal, where she was able to really take on Stephen, who at that point was our High Commissioner. I was so impressed. And then we went for a walk through Nicosia together, and it was such a memorable visit, really getting to know the Green Line and understanding that friendship isn't just about the high-level visits. It's the people-to-people, and it's the connecting. It's our everyday ties that make the relationship so strong. Our thriving trade partnership worth nearly $4 billion each year. Our universities, the University of Central Lancashire, based in Cyprus. Cypriot ships, some of the best in the world, carrying goods far and wide, including to the UK. And of course, 1 million Brits going to Cyprus every single year. The UK has a strong Cypriot community of over 300,000 people, including in and around my constituency. And if you like the fish and chips tonight, come to Toffs in Muswell Hill. Our countries are also jointly tackling threats to our security. Tensions in the Middle East affect us both. That's why we continue to call for de-escalation, the unimpeded flow of life-saving aid into Gaza, and thank you to Cyprus for the key role in that, and for all partners working tirelessly to bring peace to be protected as they do so. Thanks to our close collaboration, British nationals caught up in the conflict were able to return safely to their loved ones, and obviously Cyprus playing a key role in that transport hub, showing that our partnership runs deep, our trade, our people, our security, all being deeply intertwined with our Commonwealth history. However, within Cyprus itself, that division does endure. Ordinary Cypriots continue to live on a highly polarised island. I saw this firsthand with Caroline and the team when I was in Nicosia 4 years ago. I looked through the jagged steel fence which splits the island in two. Communities on both sides of barbed wire go about their daily lives unable to interact as they would if it were a reunified Cyprus. It's time to reconnect these communities. Here, everybody rubs along so well together. The UK supports the UN and its vision, which Christos outlined, as it works to bring Cypriots together, and we're ready to play our part in ushering unity, supporting the UN rapporteur. Cyprus has shown real leadership in encouraging dialogue in the Middle East, and we hope the same spirit will continue to guide efforts towards a settlement which improves life for all Cypriots. We also look forward to Cyprus's EU presidency, and Vice Minister, thank you for outlining your priorities, which we will support, drawing together British and European decision makers ever closer as we grapple with global challenges. Together, the UK and Cyprus are stronger partners, friends, neighbours in a region that needs us all. Efkaristo poli, and good evening, everybody. Thank you.
In the end of May this year, I was on a high-level delegation to Cyprus with 5 other parliamentarians, and one of those parliamentarians is our next speaker, and I'm delighted to welcome former Europe Minister and Shadow Europe Minister Wendy Morton. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Bambos. Honourable and right honourable friends, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Thank you for the kind introduction. It's wonderful to be here this evening, and I'm very conscious it's very warm in this room. I think we've got a lot to learn in terms of the bilateral relationship in terms of air conditioning. But anyway, there we go. But it's really good to be here, and and I reflected on my time as Minister for the European Neighbourhood. One of my saddest things was it was during COVID, so I was restricted as to how many people I could meet with, but I was very fortunate and I was able to visit Cyprus on a couple of occasions. I visited with the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme as well, and then more recently with Bambos and a cross-party delegation. But this evening I just want to take the opportunity to say that now, as an opposition MP, I think it's important that I also use this opportunity to reaffirm the long-standing and principled support of the Conservative Party for the reunification of Cyprus and for a just and lasting resolution to the Cyprus issue, one that reflects the rights, the dignity and the aspirations of all Cypriots. And later this month, we will mark the 51st anniversary of the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, an anniversary that brings both sorrow and urgency. And over 5 decades on, the continued division of the island and the occupation of more than a third of its territory remain a stark reminder that peace, reconciliation and reunification are long overdue, and we really saw that on our recent visit. So during our time in government, we consistently supported a comprehensive settlement based on a bizonal, communal federation with political equality that was set out in the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. We believe that this remains the only viable and internationally accepted framework for resolving the Cyprus issue, one that respects the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of the Republic of Cyprus. But from our recent parliamentary delegation to Cyprus in May, I was really struck, I think more than on any other visit, by the strength of the UK-Cyprus partnership and the sincere desire for progress among communities on the island. And the upcoming UN-facilitated discussions in New York represent a significant moment. And it will be essential that all parties return to the table in good faith, committed to dialogue and compromise. And I can assure you that we on the opposition benches are watching closely, engaging constructively and continuing to stand with Cypriots in your pursuit of peace and reunification. Because beyond the politics of peace, Cyprus matters deeply to the UK. Our bilateral relationship is underpinned by enduring bonds between our peoples. We see that here this evening. Over 300,000 members of the Cypriot diaspora contribute richly to life in the UK, including those in my own constituency in the West Midlands, while over 1 million Brits visit Cyprus each year. We've heard this evening about the strategic role that Cyprus plays in terms of regional stability. But let me close by reiterating this. The Conservative Party remains steadfast in our support for a reunified Cyprus. We will continue to champion the principles of justice and of peace. We will speak out against actions that undermine these goals, and we will press ministers at the FCDO to ensure the UK continues doing all it can to support a just settlement. But above all, we will listen and stand alongside your community here in the UK and on the island. So let me just close by saying thank you, and I'm really looking forward to a return trip to Cyprus soon. But thank you all.
Our next speaker has been a long-standing friend of Cyprus and a member of the APPG, and to show that the issue of Cyprus transcends many political parties, I'm delighted to welcome my friend Christine Jardine, a Member of Parliament and spokesperson for the Liberal Democrats on women and equalities. Christine, welcome.
Thank you very much. Right honourable friends, honoured guests, Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be here this evening to mark once again what is a very special relationship. A very special relationship we were reminded of its importance just a few months ago and in recent weeks with the tension growing in the Middle East and the support that we have received from Cyprus. So thank you very much for that. I should explain, my relationship with Cyprus is pretty special. We share a birthday. I am as old as Cyprus, modern Cyprus. It's true. Modern Cyprus Independence Day was, I think, about a month before I was born in 1960. So I've always felt this special connection with Cyprus. And I think throughout the United Kingdom, because of the diaspora, I grew up in Glasgow where there is a very large Cypriot diaspora. We feel that connection, not just as politicians, but as a community. We feel it in our communities. And I think it's important that as we go forward, we mark that, and that we admit to, certainly amongst the Liberal Democrats, a certain jealousy that Cyprus is still in the EU and will enjoy its second presidency next year. But I think the main thing about this evening is just to reiterate, to reinforce our friendship, our interdependence, our trade links, all of those things which make the relationship special, and why each of the political parties, I believe, will continue to support the United Nations resolution and the endeavour of recreating and reuniting Cyprus. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine. and thank you so much for your support, and not just now but throughout the years. Our next speaker is Stephen Gethins from the SNP, and Stephen is the spokesperson for international affairs. So without any more ado, Stephen, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Good evening, friends. Minister, thank you so much for being with us this evening. I don't have any such claim to fame as sharing a birthday with Cyprus, but can I say both Christine and Cyprus are looking very well on their birthday. I want to first of all talk about our Cypriot links. And Minister, I hope you won't mind me for a moment just talking about your diaspora. It's so important across the United Kingdom, and as sure as Christine and Dave won't mind me pointing out, we're lucky enough in Scotland to have 3,000 Cypriots who call Scotland their home. And they make Scotland, and I think that goes for the rest of the UK, a better place in which to live and work and contribute so much. And that's why evenings like tonight are so important for us. And I want to say thank you to the Cypriot diaspora for making this such a better place to live, work and study. We live in a common Europe, and I was so pleased to hear your remarks about Ukraine. For me, the biggest challenge that Europe faces at the moment. And Minister, you were right when you talked about our solidarity in Europe and the rules by which Cyprus governs itself. Those issues of European solidarity that I know will be important to you as you take forward your pivotal presidency of the European Union. That's really important for Cyprus, but actually it's really important for us to have a friend in that position of authority at such a pivotal time for UK-EU relations. I'm like Christine, I'd love to see the UK and Scotland back in the European Union, but until that period, that relationship remains important, and your role will remain absolutely important. I'm also reminded that we might be on different sides of Europe, but we have so many common threads. I was checking that I think it's St. Aristobulus who brought Christianity, one of the first proselytizers who brought Christianity from Cyprus to the United Kingdom, passing away in Wales. And during a time, we must think about some of those links. You live in a tough neighbourhood, and yet you're steadfast, absolutely steadfast. So let me just reaffirm that which has been said by colleagues from other political parties, that we stand by the international rule of law, and we stand by territorial integrity. And we thank you for your friendship, and we look forward to many more years of friendship as well. And John, thanks to you and all of your colleagues for everything you're doing. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Our last speaker needs no introduction to the Cypriot community. He has done so much for Cyprus. He is an honorary citizen of both Morphou and Famagusta. And without any more ado, I'm going to introduce Sir Roger Gale. Sir Roger.
Minister, Your Excellency, ladies, gentlemen, Kalispera. I have addressed these meetings over many years. This is the first time that I've done so as an honorary citizen of Cyprus. That is an honour that I regard very highly indeed. The sad thing is that in 51 years, apart from that, not a lot has changed. I've been fighting this corner for 42 of those 51 years as a Member of Parliament. Nick Bethel, Lord Bethel, of blessed memory, was my mentor in the first place. Then Robin Corbett, also of blessed memory. Alan Meal, my staunch friend, I don't know, there's Alan. Delighted to see you here. And I have worked together on this issue over many years. But the harsh fact is that we have seen opportunities come and go, but they have not been seized, and they have not been fulfilled. That has got to change. We cannot have, I've said this so many times before, a member state of the Council of Europe occupying illegally land belonging to another member state of the Council of Europe. It is quite simply wrong. There has to be a free and a fair settlement. I've watched with some horror as the Turkish settlers have encroached more and more upon Varosha. And the intent is quite obvious, and that has got to stop. Minister, you referred rightly to the degree of trust that has been placed in Cyprus by the international community in their role, humanitarian role in the Middle East. Your president has gone the extra mile to try to make facilities, to try to make aid, to try to make humanitarian aid, medicine, food available to those suffering in Gaza. And you have made your facilities available as an island to all those of goodwill. Well, that trust has got to be repaid by the developed Western world. It's no good saying let's go back to Crans-Montana if that also means going back to the beginning. A few years ago we were within an ace of a settlement at Crans. That fell apart. If, and I hope they will, of course, the talks are to start again under the auspices of the United Nations with goodwill on both sides, then those talks have to start where they left off, with the settlement almost within reach. I hope all of that happens. But I have to end by saying, as so many of my predecessors that I've already named have said, and we will go on saying it, you have good friends in the all-party parliamentary group. We will stand with you for as long as it takes. Efrisa.
That brings us to the end of the speeches. I just want to say, as chair of the APPG, to echo what Sir Roger said, you have many friends in Parliament. We do speak up for Cyprus whenever we can. We have had delegations to the island, which I'm sure those that have been on delegations have found them incredibly useful and eye-opening. And so we will continue to speak up Cyprus. And it's an honour that we've seen so many parliamentarians that have been in the room at one stage or another tonight. Again, that just typifies the support that you have. So please stay around and mingle. I think there's a chance to speak to, there's still many MPs in the room. And I just want to say once again a big thank you to Marilena, Minister. Marilena, we'll give a big round of applause to Marilena. And also a thank you to all the speakers who spoke tonight, and you can see the support from all parties who spoke tonight. So a big thank you to all the speakers. Thank you. So please enjoy yourselves for the rest of the evening.
Κυρία Ραουνά, σας καλωσορίζουμε στο Λονδίνο καταρχήν.
Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Είναι με μεγάλη χαρά που βρίσκομαι στο Λονδίνο.
Και εμείς χαιρόμαστε που είστε εδώ. Είναι νομίζω μια ευκαιρία να μιλήσουμε για κάποια πράγματα που είναι στην επικαιρότητα. Πριν πάω σε κάποιες άλλες ερωτήσεις που θέλω να σας κάνω, θέλω να μου πείτε την εντύπωσή σας για απόψε.
Να πω καταρχάς ότι θέλω να ευχαριστήσω την Ομοσπονδία, την Εθνική Ομοσπονδία Κυπρίων για την πολύ τιμητική πρόσκληση, για την προσφορά τους στην Κύπρο, για την προσήλωσή τους στην διαφώτιση για το κυπριακό ζήτημα. Ήταν νομίζω μια πολύ επιτυχημένη συνάντηση. Είχαμε την ευκαιρία να ενημερώσουμε τόσο για την Κυπριακή Προεδρία του Συμβουλίου της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, η οποία ξεκινά την 1η Ιανουαρίου του 2026 και είναι σημαντική και διότι στο πλαίσιο αυτών θα προωθήσουμε και τις σχέσεις Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου. Παράλληλα, ενημερώσαμε και για τις προσπάθειες που καταβάλλονται από τον Πρόεδρο Χριστοδουλίδη για επανέναρξη των διαπραγματεύσεων στη βάση του συμφωνημένου πλαισίου και είναι και η χρονική συγκυρία της επίσκεψης, νομίζω, σημαντική και της πραγματοποίησης αυτής της συνάντησης, λίγες μέρες πριν τη δεύτερη διευρυμένη συνάντηση υπό την αιγίδα του Γενικού Γραμματέα των Ηνωμένων Εθνών την ερχόμενη εβδομάδα 16 και 17 Ιουλίου στη Νέα Υόρκη.
Είχατε την ευκαιρία να συνομιλήσετε με κάποιους παράγοντες, κάποιους βουλευτές εδώ απόψε. Τι σας είπαν, τι σας έχουν δώσει κάποια υπόσχεση ότι ναι, θα δουλέψουμε προς αυτήν την κατεύθυνση για να έρθουν καλύτερες ώρες, μέρες, για να μπορέσουμε να έχουμε καλύτερα αποτελέσματα?
Κοιτάξτε, ένα σταθερό μήνυμα που έχω λάβει από σχεδόν όλους είναι η εκτίμηση του Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου για το ρόλο της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας στην Ανατολική Μεσόγειο εν καιρό κρίσεων. Η Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία είναι πυλώνα σταθερότητας στην περιοχή της Ανατολικής Μεσογείου και αυτό είναι ιδιαίτερα σημαντικό για μια χώρα όπως το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο. Ο ρόλος μας στην περιοχή ενισχύει και τις προσπάθειές μας για επανέναρξη των διαπραγματεύσεων στο Κυπριακό. Από όλους έχω εισπράξει ότι το Κυπριακό είναι ψηλά στην ατζέντα εδώ, στη Βουλή. Και γι' αυτό ακριβώς τον λόγο βρισκόμαστε εδώ, γι' αυτό εργαζόμαστε στενά με την Εθνική Ομοσπονδία Κυπρίων για να το κρατήσουμε ψηλά στην ατζέντα και για να περάσουμε το μήνυμα ότι η επανένωση της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας μέσα από μια λύση που θα συνάδει με τα ψηφίσματα του Συμβουλίου Ασφαλείας των Ηνωμένων Εθνών και μια λύση η οποία θα διασφαλίζει ότι η Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία θα παραμείνει ένα ανεξάρτητο κράτος στην περιοχή και ένας έμπιστος και σταθερός εταίρος για χώρες όπως το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο. Αυτό περνά και μέσα από μια βιώσιμη λύση του Κυπριακού που διασφαλίζει την ανεξαρτησία του επανενωμένου κράτους. Και αυτό νομίζω το μήνυμα ελπίζω να το έχουμε περάσει.
Ωραία, τώρα να πάμε λίγο στις επικείμενη συνάντηση που γίνεται την ερχόμενη εβδομάδα νομίζω. Πώς πάει, ποιες είναι οι προετοιμασίες που κάνει η Κυπριακή κυβέρνηση και με ποια θέματα θα πάει εκεί για να συζητήσει, δηλαδή ποιες είναι οι προβλέψεις, τι έχουμε να πούμε εκεί?
Καταρχάς θα ήθελα να υπογραμμίσω ότι το γεγονός ότι βρισκόμαστε σε αυτό το σημείο, σε μια δεύτερη διευρυμένη συνάντηση υπό την αιγίδα του Γενικού Γραμματέα, είναι αποτέλεσμα των επίπονων και συνεχών προσπαθειών του Προέδρου Χριστοδουλίδη από την πρώτη μέρα ανάληψης των καθηκόντων του. Είχαμε, όπως θυμάστε, την πρώτη διευρυμένη συνάντηση τον περασμένο Μάρτιο. Είχαμε στο μεσοδιάστημα τον διορισμό προσωπικής απεσταλμένης του Γενικού Γραμματέα, αλλά είχαμε και ακόμα μια σημαντική εξέλιξη που ήταν ο διορισμός ειδικού απεσταλμένου της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης για το Κυπριακό, μιας πολιτικής προσωπικότητας με στόχο ακριβώς να στηρίξει τις προσπάθειες των Ηνωμένων Εθνών αλλά και να κινητοποιήσει και τις ευρωτουρκικές σχέσεις ακριβώς για να συμβάλλει με αυτόν τον τρόπο και στις προσπάθειες για το Κυπριακό. Οπότε το ότι είμαστε εδώ είναι σημαντικό από μόνο του. Εμείς εργαζόμαστε προς όλες τις κατευθύνσεις και ο διάλογος και με το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο που είναι μόνιμο μέλος του Συμβουλίου Ασφαλείας, είναι εγκύτρια δύναμη στην Κύπρο, είναι εξαιρετικής σημασίας για να έχουμε αποτελέσματα. Για εμάς ο στόχος πάντα είναι η επανέναρξη των διαπραγματεύσεων και πιστεύω ότι και αυτή η συνάντηση θα είναι ένα βήμα το οποίο εμείς θα εργαστούμε ούτως ώστε να μας φέρει πιο κοντά στην επανέναρξη. Την ίδια στιγμή συμφωνήθηκαν τον Μάρτιο στη Γενέβη τα 6 μέτρα οικοδόμησης εμπιστοσύνης μεταξύ Ελληνοκυπρίων και Τουρκοκυπρίων. Στο μεσοδιάστημα έχουμε εργαστεί προς την υλοποίησή τους. Σε κάποια έχει υπάρξει πρόοδος, κάπου περισσότερη, κάπου λιγότερη. Εμείς θέλουμε αυτή η συνάντηση στη Νέα Υόρκη να έχει ένα θετικό πρόσημο και αυτό αναγνωρίζεται, πιστεύω, από τα Ηνωμένα Έθνη, από το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο και από τη διεθνή κοινότητα. Θα πρέπει και η Τουρκία να συμβάλλει προς αυτή την κατεύθυνση.
Εκπρόσωπος του Ηνωμένου Εθνών ήταν στην Κύπρο χθες, σήμερα πότε ήταν. Μιλούσε και με τον πρόεδρο της Δημοκρατίας και με τον εκπρόσωπο των Κυπρίων. Ποια ήταν τα αποτελέσματα? Είστε αισιόδοξοι με αυτή τη συναντήση?
Κοιτάξτε, η ειδική απεσταλμένη εργάζεται και εκείνη προς την κατεύθυνση του να έχουμε ένα θετικό αποτέλεσμα. Έγινε συζήτηση με τον Πρόεδρο της Δημοκρατίας για το πού βρίσκεται η υλοποίηση των 6 μέτρων οικοδόμησης εμπιστοσύνης. Από πλευράς μας τονίσαμε ότι η καλή βούληση υπάρχει στη δική μας πλευρά, είμαστε έτοιμοι να στηρίξουμε τις προσπάθειες, αλλά πρέπει πάντα να έχουμε ως στόχο την επανέναρξη των διαπραγματεύσεων στη βάση του συμφωνημένου πλαισίου και προς αυτή την κατεύθυνση να εργαστούμε.
Να ρωτήσω κάτι άλλο σχετικό με τη συνάντηση που θα γίνει στην Αμερική. Όσον αφορά τα μέτρα οικοδόμησης εμπιστοσύνης, προσθέτονται και άλλα, αφαιρούνται, τι γίνεται? Γιατί κάποιοι με ρωτούν για το θέμα της αμοχώστου, έχει ξεχαστεί κατά κάποιο λόγο, δεν ξέρω. Εσείς τι νομίζετε, πώς το βλέπετε το θέμα της αμοχώστου?
Δεν μπορεί να ξεχαστεί το θέμα της αμοχώστου. Στη Γενέβη εμείς βάλαμε στο τραπέζι μία σειρά από μέτρα οικοδόμησης εμπιστοσύνης και ακολούθησε η υλοποίηση των 6. Και στη Νέα Υόρκη θα πάμε προετοιμασμένοι στη βάση μιας συγκεκριμένης στρατηγικής που ακολουθούμε, έτοιμοι και για περισσότερα μέτρα οικοδόμησης εμπιστοσύνης. Αυτό που είναι σημαντικό είναι ενώ εργαζόμαστε στα μέτρα οικοδόμησης εμπιστοσύνης, να μην χάσουμε και τον μεγάλο στόχο. Η αμόχωστος πάντα είναι στο τραπέζι.
Κατάλαβα. Τώρα, με συγχωρείτε, ακόμα μια ερώτηση. Τα καθήκοντα σας τώρα σαν Υπουργού Ευρώπης, πώς κινείστε, σε ποιο πλαίσιο κινείστε, έχετε κάποια θέματα που ασχολείστε προς το παρόν?
Αυτή τη στιγμή προετοιμαζόμαστε για την ανάληψη της Κυπριακής Προεδρίας της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, του Συμβουλίου της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, το πρώτο εξάμηνο του 2026. Οπότε είναι εντατικές οι προετοιμασίες, είναι μια τεράστια εθνική αποστολή που απαιτεί έτσι μια οριζόντια προσπάθεια και σε αυτό το πλαίσιο οι σχέσεις Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου είναι εξαιρετικής σημασίας. Αυτό συζήτησα τις τελευταίες 2 μέρες και στο πλαίσιο των επαφών που είχα εδώ στο Λονδίνο. Έχουν γίνει σημαντικά βήματα. Εμείς είμαστε έτοιμοι να συμβάλλουμε ως Κυπριακή Δημοκρατία για περαιτέρω ενίσχυση των σχέσεων Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης Ηνωμένου Βασιλείου με ένα αμοιβαία επωφελή τρόπο.
Σας ευχαριστώ και με συγχωρείτε, σας κούρασα.
Καθόλου, χαρά μου, να είστε καλά.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ και επιφυλάσσομαι για μια πιο εκτεταμένη συζήτηση.
Όποτε θέλετε. Να είστε καλά, ευχαριστώ.